Hello, first-hand coders. The objective of today's lab is to understand comparison operators, Boolean operators, and conditional statements. Comparison operators allow us to ask the computer questions, which it replies with a true or false. Here are examples of some comparison operators. These are the mathematical representations, while this is how we write them in Python. So the comparison operators, as we said, allow user to ask the computer some questions. So for example, if we say x equal to 5, y equal to 6, and then we can simply say, is x greater than y? And the computer would reply with the answer. So the computer replies with either yes or no. Okay? So if we have x equal y, we get false. If we say, okay, is x less than y? So feel free to use these comparison operators. When we combine comparison operators with conditional statements, we can make computers perform certain operations when some given conditions are met. For example, a smart gate. So, what are conditional statements? Conditional statements are instructions that help redirect flow of a program. Example of such statement is the if statement. In this example, you can see an if statement. The statement asks the user for an input. Let's say the user gives us an input of a negative number, then the condition will be true. When the condition is true, we are able to enter the if statement. We multiply that negative number by a unary operator of minus, and then we finally come out to the print where we print the result. However, if the user gives us a positive input, when we come to the if statement, we can't pass, so we have to go around it and just go ahead and print the result because our condition is false. So this is an example of how a conditional statement and a comparison operator work hand in hand. The comparison operators are ranked 6 in our precedence table. All the above operations must be executed before it. So another thing we can do is we can make our conditional statements more precise by gluing 2 or more comparison operators using Boolean operators. Example of Boolean operators are and, or, and not. So let's try our hands on some examples. Here is a question that we are asked to ensure an input theta is within the range of 0 and 360. So we ask the user to give us theta, but we cannot use the special character here because it's Unicode. We just write theta. Okay, so theta, we convert the input to float, and then we collect the input from the user first, because if you remember, the inner bracket is the one we start with. Okay, so enter a value for theta. Okay, so we get the value from the user, and the next thing we can do is we can say, all right, if 0 is less than theta and theta is less than 360. So you can see we break the theta into two. So 0 less than theta makes this part, and then theta less than 360 makes this part. So always remember your colon at the end of the if statement. So we can say print within the range. But since this is a message, we have to put it in quotation marks. So let's try our code. Let's get a value like -1. Nothing is going to happen because it will just go round the if statement. Okay, so what if we give a valid value like 90? You can see it will print within the range. So what AND does is it makes sure that both conditions to the left and to the right of it are true. Or on the other hand, will accept if at least one of the inputs is true. Not is used if we want to negate an input. So for example, if we say not true, you can see the result will be false. Or if you say not false, you can see the result will be true. So if we have and, if we say true and false, then the total result will be false. Both must be true for the whole condition to be true. But if this is an or, at least one of them, if one of them is true, then the condition suffices. Okay, so the only time or is false is if both conditions are false. So if both of your conditions are false, then the condition is in total is false. So another thing we can do is that we can chain these two conditions together in Python. We can do that by just removing this one, and Python will still see it as the same. So if we say 94, it's still acceptable. But there are certain situations where this will not be possible. For example, if we want to make sure it is within the range and the value theta is the type of the value theta is float. So in this case, you can see we are testing for the range, and we are testing to see if the value is float. So if you try a value, see it's true. This comes in handy if we somewhere in our code we happen to change the value. So if you run this, you can see it will not pass through the if statement. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.